She said, 5 years and you still couldn't afford the ring I want, while smiling for photos. I said, luckily, I don't have to anymore. When she opened the velvet box I slid across the table, her smile faded. For 5 years, I operated under the assumption that my girlfriend Chloe and I were on the same team. I thought we were building a future brick by brick, a partnership based on shared goals and mutual respect. I have since learned that we were not on the same team at all. I was building a house and she was just living in it, complaining that it was not a castle. I am an engineer. My mind works in plans, spreadsheets, and long-term projections. I do not make impulsive decisions, especially with money. When Chloe and I first got serious, we talked about our future. A house, financial stability, and eventually, marriage. She showed me a picture of her dream engagement ring, a ridiculously large diamond from a brand-name jeweler, with a price tag that could buy a decent car. I did not flinch. I just saw it as another long-term project. I opened a separate savings account and started methodically putting money away. But I was not just saving for a ring. I was saving for a life. Every dollar that went into the ring fund was matched by a dollar that went into a house down payment fund. I wanted to give her the ring, but I also wanted to give us a home. It was a slow, disciplined process. For 5 years, I drove an older car, packed my own lunch, and skipped expensive boys' trips, all while funding a very comfortable lifestyle for the two of us in an apartment that I paid for. Chloe, however, is a person who lives in the now. Her world is social media, brunch with friends, and the constant draining performance of appearing effortlessly affluent. She saw my financial discipline not as a sacrifice for our future, but as a personal failing. She saw it as me being cheap. Her patience had been wearing thin for the past year. The hints about getting engaged became less subtle, and her comments about my spending habits became more pointed. The breaking point came on the night of our 5th anniversary. I had planned a special dinner at a nice restaurant with 2 other couples, our closest friends. It was supposed to be a celebration of our journey together. In my pocket, I had a small, black velvet box. The plan was to propose later that evening, somewhere private and meaningful, after the dinner. I had finally done it. I had saved enough for a 20% down payment on a modest house in a good neighborhood, and 2 weeks prior, I had put the final payment on the exact 3-carat ring she had wanted. The project was complete. I was ready. The dinner started well. We ordered a nice bottle of wine. We laughed. We reminisced. Then, her friend Jenna looked at her with a sly smile. "So, Chloe," she said, her voice loud enough for the whole table to hear. 5 years. That is a long time. Is Kevin ever going to put a ring on it? Chloe let out a high-pitched theatrical laugh. She leaned over to pose for a picture another friend was taking, making sure her smile was perfect for the camera. Then she looked at me, her eyes full of a strange, bright cruelty, and said the words that detonated our entire future. 5 years, and he still could not afford the ring I want. Maybe by year 10, right, babe? The table went quiet. Her friends giggled nervously. My friends looked at me with expressions of pure shock. It was not a joke. It was a public shaming. A dismissal of 5 years of my sacrifice, delivered with a perfect smile for a social media photo. In that single, brutal moment, I realized the ring was not a symbol of our commitment to her. It was a trophy. It was a status symbol she needed to validate her own worth. And she was angry that I had not acquired it for her fast enough. The man I was 5 minutes prior would have been hurt, embarrassed. He would have tried to defend himself. But that man was gone. In his place was someone else. Someone cold and clear and finished. The engineer in my head took over, calculated the variables, and saw only one logical conclusion. The project had been cancelled. I smiled back at her. A calm, easy smile that did not reach my eyes. Luckily, I said, my voice perfectly even. I do not have to anymore. Her smile faltered. The friends looked back and forth between us, confused. Before she could respond, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small, black velvet box. Her eyes lit up. A wave of pure, triumphant relief washed over her face. She thought this was it. She thought I was about to propose. To prove her wrong in front of everyone. To give her the victory she so desperately craved. I did not get down on one knee. I just sat there, looked her in the eye, and slid the box across the polished table. Happy anniversary, Chloe, I said. She opened the box with trembling, eager fingers. And then, her triumphant smile vanished, replaced by a mask of stunned, horrified confusion. Because inside that box, there was no 3-carat diamond. There was no ring at all. There was just a single, neatly folded piece of paper. She slowly unfolded it. I did not need to see her face to know her expression. I had already pushed my chair back, stood up, and was walking towards the exit of the restaurant. The contents of that piece of paper were my final words in this 5-year-long negotiation. And I was no longer at the table. Update 1. The walk from that restaurant to my car felt like the first steps of a free man. My phone started buzzing before I even got the engine started, but I just dropped it onto the passenger seat and drove. I did not go home. I went to my office, a quiet, sterile place where I could think. The buzzing from my phone was relentless. I finally picked it up. Dozens of missed calls from Chloe and her friends. A string of texts, each more frantic than the last. What was that? What was on that paper? Kevin, this is not funny. Come back here. You completely ruined my anniversary. How could you be so cruel? I did not reply. I just opened my laptop and started untangling the mess of a life I had built around her. For those of you wondering what was on that piece of paper inside the velvet box, it was not a letter. It was a receipt. It was a neatly formatted, itemized list I had printed out in my office that afternoon, right before I went to the jeweler to pick up her ring. I had a sudden, dark premonition that the night might not go as planned, and I prepared a contingency. The list read, Subject 5-year anniversary, financial review. Item 1, down payment on your company car, 2022 model year, $5,000. Item 2, your half of vacation to Italy, summer 2023, $3,850. Item 3, your outstanding credit card debt paid in full, winter 2024, $7,200. Item 4, assorted designer handbags and shoes, last 24 months, approximately $8,500. Item 5, contribution to your girls' trips, Las Vegas, Miami, $2,500. Total contributions to Personal Lifestyle Fund, 2021 to 2025, $27,150. And at the bottom, a final simple line, cost of requested engagement ring, $26,500. Thank you for helping me realize I already made the investment. Returns were just disappointing. That was it. No emotion, just cold, hard data. The numbers told a story that she could not argue with. The money she had been waiting for me to spend on her ring had, in fact, already been spent. On her. I came home late that night to an empty apartment. She had clearly gone to a friend's place. The first thing I did was change the locks. The next morning, I was at the bank when it opened. I closed our joint savings account, the one for the house down payment, and moved the funds into a new personal account. I canceled her supplementary credit card. She showed up around noon that day, her face pale and her eyes puffy. Her key, of course, did not work. She started pounding on the door. I let her stand there for a while before I opened it. You have 5 minutes to explain yourself, she said, her voice shaking with rage. I do not need 5 minutes, I said, leaning against the doorframe. That piece of paper explained everything. We are done, Chloe. You are breaking up with me. Over a joke after 5 years. Yes, I said. Because it was not a joke. It was an invoice. You presented me with an invoice for your affection, and I have decided the price is too high. You see me as nothing more than a bank account, a means to an end. The problem for you is, this bank account is now closed. But our life, my things, my car, she stammered. This is my apartment, Chloe. The lease is in my name. The car is also in my name. I suggest you start making arrangements for both. You have 1 week to get your things out of my home. Her anger crumbled into desperation. But I cannot afford the car payments. I cannot afford a new apartment. That sounds like a personal finance problem, I said. You should probably start working on a spreadsheet. I find them very helpful. I closed the door on her shocked face. The week that followed was a battle of wills. She tried everything. She sent her friends to talk to me. She had her mother call me, who told me I was breaking her daughter's heart. I politely told her mother that her daughter's heart seemed to be located in a jewelry store display case, and that I was no longer interested in making payments on it. During that week, I did something I had been putting off. I went to the safe in my closet and took out the real ring. It was exactly what she wanted. 3 carats, flawless clarity, set in a simple platinum band. It was beautiful, and it felt like a cursed object in my hand. It was a monument to a lie. I had fulfilled my part of the bargain, but she had failed to fulfill hers. She had failed to be a partner. At the end of the week, she had still not made any arrangements to move her things. She thought I was bluffing. On the final day, I had a moving company professionally pack every item that belonged to her. They delivered it all to her parents' house, where I knew she would have to go. That evening, I was alone in my apartment, surrounded by the empty spaces she used to occupy. It felt clean. It felt quiet. I sat on my couch and looked at the engagement ring, sitting on the coffee table. I felt a profound sense of loss, not for her, but for the 5 years I had spent on a project that was doomed from the start. But I also felt a sense of freedom. I no longer had to save for a ring I did not want to give, for a woman I no longer respected. The project was over, and all the capital was mine again. Final update. It has been 6 months since the night of our 5th anniversary dinner. The process of moving on has been like renovating an old house. You have to tear out all the rotten wood and faulty wiring before you can build something new and strong. Chloe's life, from what I have heard, has undergone a demolition of its own. Her parents, after I calmly explained the financial situation to them and showed them the bank statements, were not as supportive of their daughter as she had hoped. They let her stay with them, but they made it clear that she was expected to get a job and pay her own way. Her career in real estate had been more of a hobby funded by me. Without the expensive car and the designer wardrobe, she found it difficult to attract the high-end clients she was used to. She had to sell the car to cover her debts. Last I heard, she was working as a hostess at the very restaurant where our relationship had ended. Her friends, the ones who laughed at her joke, slowly faded away. It turns out, their loyalty was directly proportional to my willingness to pick up the check. The most significant event, however, was what I did with the ring. I could not bring myself to sell it. It felt wrong, like profiting from a failure. I went back to the old, quiet jeweler who had custom-made it for me. I told him the whole story. He was a kind man in his 70s, and he just nodded sadly, as if he had heard 100 similar tales. I asked him if he could do something for me. I had him remove the large, 3-carat diamond from the setting. Then I had him take the platinum from the band, melt it down, and forge it into something else. A simple, unadorned money clip. It was symbolic. The material that was meant to bind me to a life of expectation was now repurposed to hold the fruits of my own labor. As for the diamond, I had it set into a simple, elegant necklace. Not for anyone else. For my sister. For her 40th birthday. I gave it to her. She had been my biggest supporter through all of this, and I wanted her to have something beautiful, with no strings attached. With my future now my own, I made a major life change. I took the money I had saved for the house down payment, and I invested it in myself. I left my stable but unfulfilling engineering job and started my own consulting firm, specializing in a niche area of my field I was passionate about. It was a risk, but for the first time, I was not afraid to take one. 2 months ago, my new company landed its first major contract. To celebrate, I went out to a quiet, unassuming restaurant by myself. It was there that I met Kate. She was my server. She was a single mother, working 2 jobs to put herself through nursing school. She was bright, funny, and had a warmth and a resilience that I found incredibly attractive. We talked for a long time that night. She was not impressed by what I did for a living or how much money I made. She was impressed by the fact that I had the courage to start over. We have been dating ever since. It is a different kind of relationship. It is built on shared experiences and mutual respect, not financial transactions. We split the bills, we cook dinner together, we talk about our futures, and they feel like a shared project, not a list of demands. The final, unexpected chapter of this story happened last week. Kate and I were at a fundraiser for a local hospital. It was a casual outdoor event. I saw Chloe there. She was not working. She was on a date with a man who looked to be at least 30 years older than her, a man who was wearing a watch that cost more than my first car. She looked miserable, her smile as fake and brittle as it had been on our anniversary night. She saw me. Her eyes immediately went to Kate, sizing her up, and then to my wrist, probably looking for an expensive watch. Then, her gaze fell on something in my hand. I was paying for a round of drinks, and I pulled out my money clip to get some cash. The simple, elegant platinum money clip. She recognized the sheen of the metal. I saw the exact moment of recognition in her eyes. The blood drained from her face. She knew exactly what she was looking at. She was looking at the melted-down remnants of her dream ring, now being used to hold $20 bills for a round of beers at a charity event. It was the ultimate statement that everything she thought was important, the ring, the status, the platinum band, had been transformed into something practical, useful, and completely under my control. She turned away quickly, pulling her older, wealthier date in the opposite direction. I looked over at Kate, who was laughing with one of her friends from nursing school. I walked over and handed her a drink. She smiled at me. A real smile. One that reached her eyes. In that moment, surrounded by the sounds of a local band and good people, I realized I was richer than I had ever been. I had finally found something priceless. And it had absolutely nothing to do with a ring.